we're ramping it up a little bit here because the festive season is also a time when this season itself gets weaponized by divorced parents who says, well, I'm going to talk to Laura Paris, Associate and Team Lead of Shulman Partners LLP. Laura Paris, good morning.
Hi, Jerry. How are you?
Yeah, I'm well. Look, it's such a terrible thing when a marriage comes down to divorce, when you've got a relationship that started out with so many hopes and dreams and love and all of that and is falling apart. But it's really, really dysfunctional and horrible when people decide to then sort of take it out on the other party, so to speak. That's what this feels like.
Yeah, of course. And I mean, look, it's unfortunately it's a day-to-day part of our job, trying to manage our clients' emotions and trying to teach them and help them understand that there is a difference between a spouse and a parent. And really learning how to separate the two, because just because someone wasn't good to you in a relationship doesn't mean that they're not capable of being good to their kids.
Yeah, well, how does this play out in reality when you say weaponizing the holiday season?
We often see the holidays being used as a time to withhold the kids. A lot of parents have they're very emotional when it comes to the holidays. They don't like, for example, if you're one to celebrate Christmas, they don't like the idea of perhaps having a Christmas morning without waking up to their children. And they try to do whatever they can, sometimes to the detriment of the children, to make sure that the kids are with them.
Yeah, and then that's so difficult as the kid when you've got, now we've got to sit there and balance. It can be tough enough once the kids get older as well. If they, if they're married, then you've got a situation where you've got to work out, we're staying with her, we're doing this with her family, we're doing this with my family, and then now we've got this other issue going on in the divorce, and it's just like you just want January to come.
Absolutely. And, you have to think when you're in a couple, you often have maybe, one family you spend Christmas Eve with and the other family you often spend Christmas Day with. As a separated couple, things look a little bit different. Those traditions that you shared as an intact family aren't necessarily going into the separated family. And a lot of people have difficulties letting go of those traditions, even though the harsh reality is that the separated family is not going to look the same, but that doesn't mean it can't be still a good and fun experience for everybody.
Laura Paris is with me, Associate and Team Lead, Shulman Partners. We're talking about divorced parents weaponizing the holiday season. Let me turn it around here, though, Laura. Do sometimes, and I think we'd be talking about older or maybe even adult kids here, sometimes are they the problem?
Well, of course. I mean, and this is where we get into situations that sometimes are outside of even the parents' control. The court at some point starts to consider the children's views and preferences. And the exact age of it, it's not necessarily stated. It's more based on, the maturity of the child, et cetera. But let's say if we did have to put an age on it, maybe 12 and up, where you start to take the kids' thoughts and feelings into consideration. And the problem where we see most times people are understanding, I have a teenage kid, they're going to make their own decisions, I'm not going to push them. But where we see a lot of issues is where those children's feelings have been influenced by a parent, and they aren't necessarily independent thoughts. And this is where we get into things like parental alienation, where you have a parent who has denigrated the other parent so much in front of the child that they're almost not even in control of their own thoughts anymore, where they've now adopted the harsh feelings that one parent has towards the other.
Do you find this difficult work to do?
It's extremely difficult. And, we don't have a perfect system. It's the only system we have, and we try to navigate it as best we can. But, you have to appreciate every family has their unique circumstances. And how do you create a law that is going to apply to every unique circumstance that you see in different family dynamics? So, we do our best as lawyers to try to navigate these things. I always tell my clients, if you can see there's going to be an issue, Start dealing with it proactively. Don't wait till the last minute to try and figure out what your Christmas plans are. Let's start talking about it in September, October, so that we can actually try to find a solution if we need to and utilize the courts. Although, we try to use the courts as a last resort option, sometimes it's our only option. It's very difficult. As a lawyer, you have to learn you work in a box and you do what you can within the confines of what the law allows us to do.
Okay. Well, you have to do what you have to do as a professional, but just between you and me, because we're just talking here, Laura, do you ever sit there behind your desk and think, I just want to get up and shake these people?
Absolutely. And, as a parent, I'm a new parent, and I have a whole new outlook on things, having a son now, and it's even more difficult because there's a part now that I can relate to some of these where I thought it was a bit unreasonable. Now there's a side of me that says, hey, maybe if I was in that position, I kind of get it. And it's very hard, and I've had to learn to an extent compartmentalize a little bit, but, it's an emotional area, and I try to do my best, and I try to give people realities. I'm a product of a divorced family. I've been lucky enough that my parents, I believe, put us first, and we didn't necessarily face these issues. I try to bring my own personal experiences into my practice to guide people in the right direction. That's all I can do. But of course, it's very difficult.
Do you ever see a situation where you might say to people, and this is kind of what came up with the psychologist I spoke to yesterday on these family dynamics at holiday time, and that is that somebody is just going to have to say, I guess I'm just not going to be able to do a family Christmas here. I'm going to have to maybe get together with some friends or go spend Christmas Day at the Chinese restaurant or something.
Absolutely. And, it's not all that bad. Like, kids are simple. They don't need Christmas on Christmas Day. They're happy to open up gifts if you give it to them on December 25th or December 28th. Sometimes it's a matter of just changing your perspective on things. And while, again, we traditionally have this understanding that and belief and these traditions, obviously, traditions can change. And it's really just the messaging that you send to your kids. The experience can be just as amazing, even if it's on a different day.
Well, a text message just came in while you and I were speaking, and it reads, love your children more than you hate your ex.
I think that's a great way to sum it up, and that's exactly what it is. It's if you have the ability to put your love for your children over your disdain for your ex, you're going to make the right decisions.
What percentage of the time would you say people have what you might call an amicable divorce?
It's hard to say. If I had to put a number on it, I'd say, okay, I'll put it this way. We don't necessarily see all the amicable divorces. People who are amicable tend to go to mediators. They'll try to avoid lawyers. So in my practice, what I see, I'd say maybe 20%. That might be a little high. I might be going a little generous on it, but I'd say maybe 20%.
I'm going to hit you with a tougher one for you, Laura.
Yeah.
What percentage of the time are the lawyers the problem?
I don't know. I'd say sometimes 50% of the time the lawyers can be the issue.
Yeah, you can get this from him. You can get this from her. No, you should push for this. That kind of thing. And there becomes maybe a bit of a fight that didn't really necessarily have to be there.
Look, it doesn't mean it's a bad lawyer. Sometimes I say to my clients, there's what's right under the law and there's what's right for you and your family. Sometimes our advice is contrary to what somebody wants. And there's a way to express that without discouraging people from finding a solution that works for them. And I think that's kind of where if you have someone that comes into your office and they said, look, we figured everything out. This is what we want. And I say to them, look, that's not what the law says. But if you're happy with this, then no problem. I can draft it up for you in most cases anyways. There's different ways to have that messaging with your clients. Sometimes that messaging can be very strong, like you're really losing out on something. This is really risky for you. And then that can completely derail a settlement. So it's not necessarily coming with malintent, but sometimes just with us doing our jobs and telling people the law, we could derail a settlement.
Yeah, it's not that the issues that exist in families are because of the festive season. It's just that this time of year it can appear to be worse, and sometimes, as we've been discussing here, divorced parents are weaponizing the season. Laura Paris is associate and team lead, Shulman Partners LLP. Thanks for your time today. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Jerry.
This is the iHeart Radio Talk Network.